That meant that a quarter of the place was occupied by folks who were sort of Nancy Pelosi Democrats, and a quarter of the place were occupied by folks who was like, Tea Party Republicans. And half the membership consisted of folks on both sides of the aisle who are a lot like our own Doug Bernard. People whose districts go either way, districts did go different ways in presidential election. And who practiced the politics of cooperation instead of the politics of confrontation. Meanwhile, over here on the left side, the left wing, you got 25% of folks over here, a quarter of the House basically being rewarded politically back home for practicing the politics of confrontation with a left-leaning tinge. Same with folks on the right-hand side. A quarter of the membership maybe gets rewarded for practicing the politics of confrontation with a rightward-leaning tilt. But a big chunk of folks in the middle who could talk with each other across the aisle. They could also talk with the nutcases on their own side of the aisle. Now, that's what Congress was back then. Today, it's like 45-45 and 5 to 10% in the middle. That's what technology has done to the game, and it's changed the place dramatically. It's frustrating as all get out. It means that there's so many folks up there who think that their way is the right way, that they can't see anything right what the other side's got to offer, and they can't see anything wrong with what their leadership has to offer. Given the hand we've been dealt, what can we do with the situation? Well, first off, to improve the hand, we need to fix the process for drawing these lines. And that's the legislation that I introduced on the first day of this Congress. It will, I'm convinced, in my lifetime, be enacted. It's legislation that will require Congress to tell the states, you've got to draw your district lines on a nonpartisan basis. But I'm convinced it's going to happen someday, because in the states where the people have the power to take the matters into their own hands, they're enacting these reforms already. Iowa's done it for decades. California and Florida have just gone down that route for the first time. The voters in these states have taken this game away from the politicians in their state capitals, and they're civilizing the process to try and make sure that the states are divvied up on a more or less fair and square basis. So we have a chance. We'll have some conservative districts and some progressive districts, and we'll have a lot of moderate districts like we used to have, which is, I think, the longest and best hope for our country, at least for our House of Representatives. If you haven't heard of an outfit called the Problem Solvers, I suggest you go online and look them up. They are the result of an outside intervention with Congress by a group that styles itself No Labels. No Labels is a bunch of business people who've got the wherewithal and time on their hands and are concerned about our country, who've come together and said, this is crazy. This place is not functioning right. Congress has got to get fixed. And they are sponsoring this initiative in Congress. And the members of Congress who come together under their auspices, we call ourselves the Problem Solvers. I'm a co-founder of this group. There are about 70 members in there. And we've kind of set it so that you can't come into this group unless you bring someone from the other side of the aisle with you. And we'll check out the modifiers, see if they're really interested in working together. And what we're doing is we're coming up with legislative initiatives to try and break some of the logjam in Congress. Some of them were substantive. Things like the measure that Mike Fitzpatrick introduced, that would basically cut down on the amount of travel that federal bureaucrats and civil servants are engaging in, cut it in half. We're not using technology and teleconferencing the way the private sector is. And what happens when these guys travel to conventions? They get in trouble. They spend all kinds of they do stupid stuff. Stay at home and save, stay in place and stop the waste. It would save $5 billion a year. There are other more procedural items we push, like filibuster reform in the Senate. To get rid of the silent filibuster, the virtual filibuster, which has paralyzed that place. Make them do what Rand Paul did when he took to the floor for the first time in who knows how long to actually have a shown-up, old-fashioned, real filibuster, where he could stand up and shine a light on the problem, arrest the attention of the nation, and actually get a result. And that's the way it's supposed to work. But because everybody in the Senate has aggrandized themselves and given themselves the power to hogtie the whole place and do it on filibuster light, without having to show up, without having to get catheterized like Strom Thurmond did, without having to take your fruit and food to the table and stand up and sit in. These guys can all paralyze the place without having to lift a finger. That's wrong. That's why it's got the Senate all screwed up. We have similar problems on the House side with procedural rules over there that are designed to civilize the House, but made it possible for it to be overly partisan. That addresses the #1 concern.